All right, rugby fans, welcome back to another episode of the USA Rugby Clubhouse. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Petrie, and I am joined by a very well-rested Ben Foden after 4 days on holiday this weekend, was it, Fodes?
Yeah, it could have been a holiday. It felt like a holiday. It was nice. It was well, I wouldn't say earned, but I say well needed. I wouldn't say it was earned.
Fodes, after like what 20 some odd years of playing professional rugby, I think it's like you could use the word earned, and no one's gonna fault you for it. I think you've earned the right for a weekend off. I think that's okay. You can give yourself some credit. It's all right.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate. Well, listen, we didn't do very good, so gutted to have sat it out. But again, Mikey, this East Conference is. We were talking last week. Maybe we'll start to see a bit of spirits. It's been blown wide open again. All the guys at the bottom winning, all the guys at the top losing. Suddenly, there's 6 points from the guy who's in last to the guy who's in first. It's just who was in first last week's now at fourth. It is just the wild, wild west in the East Conference.
Don't look now. Atlanta's in first place. It's like, and I didn't pick Atlanta. That was a mistake of mine last week. I knew that. We can start there if we talk a little bit about the games from this past weekend. But I knew that Atlanta had a good side. We said that from the beginning on this show, and I didn't pick them. It's my mistake. They were at home. I should have. You did. You were wise. You went with Atlanta at home. I didn't. But they look to be a team that's really starting to find their rhythm as of lately. So I think they could be one in the Eastern Conference to really shake things up. And like you said, though, I mean, next week, who knows, right? Like the past couple of weeks, Atlanta's looked good. Maybe next week, who has any idea what's going on in the Eastern Conference?
It is ridiculous at the moment. But I was impressed with Atlanta as well. Their substitute fly half who came on, he looked real sharp in the 10 shirt. Mark O'Keefe, again, looking great. He played 13 this week. They had another winger who looked pretty good. The new guy at fullback as well. They just have new guys who are coming onto the scene and are impressing. Do you know what I mean? And that's always a very, very good thing this far into the season, because it's guys who are stepping up when they get a chance and they're shining, and it gives coaches confidence in rotation, but substitutions as well. And I think the teams that are going to do the best in this competition as well are the teams that can keep their guys fit. And we saw it with LA last week. Yes, it was a very good game against from New York to beat LA at home, but it was a few injuries. Matt Gitto was missing. Their fullback went down early. There was a few guys who were missing from the first team with Niggles. Billy Meeks was missing. He's done his jaw. He was back this week. And you can just see that, if you've got a squad of players of 20 guys who can do a job, then you're going to start getting holes in your bucket coming towards the end of the season when injuries are picked up, because wear and tear, that happens in this game. If you have a squad of players of 30 who you can trust, and guys who come in and excel when they're given the chance, like the confidence of the coaches to go through the roof. And that, for me, Atlanta, they just have a lot of strength in depth. They might not have the strongest 15, but I think they definitely have one of the strongest sort of 30-man squads.
No, you're right. And that's one of the things I really like about Atlanta. Maybe I'm missing something here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't have that star fire, right? They don't have that brand of there's no Chris Robshaw, there's no Cecil Africa, there's no Ben Foden, right? There's no Andy Ellis, right? They just don't have. There's no Matt Gitto, no Adam Ashley Cooper. They don't have these big, high-profile names. They just have some gritty ball players that work well within Scott Lawrence's system, the coach down there, and they're just grinding away. And they got players like Mark O'Keefe who are just hungry, right? I mean, Mark was on the show and he said he was the guy that was effectively neglected by every other MLR team, and then Atlanta rang, and that's the type of people that they have in their program down there. And it's no surprise that they're starting to put the pieces together, I think.
Yeah, like you said, hungry for it. And listen, New England are no easy pushover either. They've had some good games in the last week. They were sitting top of the East Conference before. Oh no, they weren't. NOLA were. They were sitting. Where were they sitting? Third or something like that. They were close.
England was middle of the table. I think NOLA was up top. Yeah.
And so, they weren't an easy pushover. And for them to put a scoreline of 33-18 and be very much in control of that game is very impressive. And Dougie Fife is playing very well at 13. The pack of New England is very good. I remember playing against them in the opening game of the season last year, and that's what impressed me about them is they were very physical, very tough. They won all their lineouts, they won all their own scrums. So for Atlanta to sort of do a job as they did on those just shows that they could be, contenders for this Eastern Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And then don't look now, folks, but you're playing You're playing New England this weekend on CBS
Exactly, yeah.
Sports, no less, right? The
Yeah,
big one.
that's the big one. It's plenty to look forward to. But let's talk about the New York game. Going down to Austin, obviously, coming off the back of a big win, does it give the boys false confidence? We trained well. We sort of prepared for the game, knowing that at the same time, Austin is sort of like family to the LA Giltinis and sort of wanted revenge for that loss. And plus, they probably saw it as a chance to sort of grab, 4 or 5 points and get closer to LA as well in that Western Conference. So they were always going to be a hard game it's going to always be a hard game. They're a team that are flying in conference as well, especially at home. They're very good at home. I like what they're doing at home with all the fan interaction and the halftime shows and things like that. But it was disappointing from New York. And the biggest disappointment for me was it's been 2 games now without a try for New York, and that's worrying. And what's even more worrying is that we didn't really look like we were going to score a try at the weekend either. I mean, we kicked a penalty in the first minute and a half. Dan Hollinshead went down, just before halftime and came off at halftime. But it just seemed like we were missing sort of like that edge in attack that just always going to, someone who was going to do something and break out into space and then put someone away. And I don't know, I can't put my finger on it what's missing, but it's something that we'll definitely address, because we've been saying in the last couple of weeks we want to score 4 tries. It's one of our things. We want to be an attractive brand of rugby that fans want to come and watch. But at the moment, we're really finding it hard to cross that whitewash.
Well, yeah, I mean, first, give yourself a little credit, because you've played 2 of the best teams in the league, like in New York, in the past 2 weeks, right? So you've come up against Los Angeles, you've come up against Austin, you haven't walked away with any tries, right? Yeah. And it goes without saying that that's got to be frustrating. You've got a new attack coach that's been there, in his 3rd week. Bork's been in there from New Zealand, just came in, 3 weeks ago?
Marty Burke, yeah, and he's had a big impact, to be fair. He's, he knows the stuff. He's very thorough. Both Martys are very thorough in what they want and what we're setting out to do. We've changed a few things, so there is an element of change and learning new patterns and new plays and how we want to play the game. So, but I don't want to make excuses up for the talent we have in our team. And the firepower that we have in our team, we should be able to score tries.
Yeah, but look at the New York lineup. It's a lineup that, with the exception of yourself, I think, right? If you look at your career, you probably brought this, but there's a lot of hardworking guys that are just gritty, grindy people. Like you look at Will Leonard in the centers, but and Fuatai at 13, but there's no X factor. You know what I mean? There's no one that's electric that can make something out of nothing. And I know, Fodes, in your heyday, you could always have turned something out of nothing, right? You could just turn the game on a dime if you needed to. A little bit different these days, and I mean that with all due respect. But you don't have that, and some of these other teams just have these players that can really just turn the game on its head instantaneously, single-handedly, just take the game into their hands and flip everything and just make it exciting. But that said, right, you do have a team that you've hung with the 2 best teams in the league so far. You beat LA last week. You hung with LA, or you hung with Austin this week. You beat LA last week. So you might not have that firepower, like you said, to actually have the flair in attack. But I think you've also proven that defensively, you're one of the most sound teams right now in terms of defense, right? And as we all know, defense wins championships, right? The old, as the saying goes. So slow and steady wins the race, right? The attack will come. You got the new attack coach there.
So true, Mike. You're so true. And at the start of the season, we were scoring tries, but we were leaking a lot of points as well. So you're completely right. Defense has become one of our main priorities, and we have hardened up in that aspect of the game. But And honestly, we did our research on Austin as well, and they've conceded the least amount of tries in the league. So they have the stingiest defense in the league. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but there's plenty to work on. We will get better, I assure you that, and we'll bounce back because, like I said, this East Conference League is wide open. So New York have got a big fixture this weekend, like you said, along the road against the New England Free Jacks. Talking of the East Coast, though, we both called Toronto to go down to Houston and do a job. It was a lot closer than we both thought. 10 points to 19 to Toronto. To be expected, though, I think. Houston have been up and down, and I think Toronto are one of those more solid and Yeah, I think they went there with the idea they're going to grind out an away win, and that's exactly what they did.
I think the closeness of the score didn't surprise me,
Yeah,
but the low scoring game did, because
yeah,
both Houston and Toronto have that ability to really keep the scoreboard ticking over, and they just didn't do it against each other. It was like almost like a standoff between the two of them, right? It was
yeah.
like this old fashioned, both teams had been putting up all kinds of points in the past couple games leading up to it, and then all of a sudden they face off against each other, and they don't really have an answer for the other's defense, basically. So
Yeah.
I knew Toronto would get the job done. I just thought there'd be from both sides.
You thought it'd be 35, 20, 28 or something.
Yeah, right. I thought there would have been a bit more cushion in the scoreline.
Yeah, but there wasn't even a point scored until 22 minutes into the game, and then Toronto finally scored over scrum. So it just shows that I think that, like you said, I think everyone has sort of gone away and realized, do you know what? If you're going to win championships, you've got to sort of steady up your defenses, because we were seeing some bloody cricket scores in the opening couple of games when it was like 53, 49 and stuff, and people just thought, you know what? We can score tries. We've just got to harden up our defense. And I think everyone's gone away with that mentality. And suddenly we're just seeing these score. It's still dry. It's still top of the ground rugby out there, but everyone's just hardening up a bit. It's interesting to see. Apart from obviously the Giltinis, who are playing in one of the best stadiums in the world, down at SoFi. Old Gilchrist has got the checkbook out, written a big check, and said, "No, we're going to be the first team ever to play with a crowd out in LA in the new SoFi Stadium against a team that was sort of putting pressure on them, Utah. They've had a good season so far. I think they're sitting third now. And it was a spectacle, 38-27. They looked good again, though. Well, they always look good. But I think with Gitto back in there, Billy Meeks was back in there, and Angus, the number 6, was back in there as well. And they just looked good again. Do you know what I mean? They looked like they were in charge, controlled. They attacked when they wanted. Johnny Ryberg on the wing was boshing people off again and offloading out of tackles, and they just looked a handful all over the field. And Utah did well to hang with them, but it was always sort of in the bag after about 25, 30 minutes, I felt, anyway.
Yeah, Ryberg's been doing well on the wing. I've had a lot of fun watching him play. I saw him make a couple of breaks this past weekend. It's like you said, Los Angeles is a team that last weekend you frustrated them to bits in New York. They traveled across the country. They couldn't get anything going. They had that one set piece move that even that, if not for a missed tackle, would have been foiled as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that one exception, they looked like the Los Angeles we've seen all season long. But credit to Utah. I think they were probably up for it as well. Even though that was Los Angeles' home game, I think everybody was probably up for the experience of playing in that arena. But Utah was down near the bottom of the table, and they're jumped up to second place now. So with the exception of Los Angeles at the top, it could be that Los Angeles, Utah, and Austin sort of like right there, neck and neck.
Austin's win over us. They've jumped to second. Utah losing.
Utah's in third now.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But yeah, one thing I'd say about Utah is that they don't shy away from it in terms of they have the way they play, and they play open, top of the ground rugby, and they are trying to win games by throwing it around and scoring more tries, which is probably not the best tactic against LA, because that's how they want you to play as well. And then they'll bring out their star of firepower and start scoring tries as well. But Utah are a handful, Utah, and they have it. Do you know what I mean? They're scoring tries week in, week out. They are a handful. And I like what they're doing there. Whatever they've done with Utah over the summer, they've done a good job. They've recruited well. They've brought in players like Mikey Teo at 15, who's given them experience, but also firepower. And I like what they're doing. I've been impressed with Utah. And I know we keep jumping on and off the Utah bandwagon, we keep saying, but they're a good team. They're a good outfit in that West Conference, definitely. And speaking of a good team in the West Conference, San Diego have finally turned up to the Western Conference. And they looked good, Mikey. They did. 43 points to 17 against a solid NOLA outfit, but they had the boys back in town, didn't they? They had JP Peterson back at 10, looking good, scoring 80-meter tries.
I don't know how he does it, Foz. I don't know how he does it.
Exactly, yeah. And, they just look like a team who are getting guys back from injuries. They're recruiting. We've talked about a few recruitments that they've got and brought in. It just looks like they are turning turning a corner. We spoke to Rob Shaw last week, who said, you know, they've had injuries, people are getting back to fitness. He's looking to get back in the next 1 or 2 weeks as well. You know, I'm glad that we aren't playing San Diego again. That's all I can say, because they're going to be getting, you know, I talked earlier about Atlanta having a stronger squad, and it's taken a bit of time for San Diego to piece their squad together, but the reinforcements are coming, and they're coming in heavy.
They could be the story of the second half of the season for sure. I mean, we kind of wrote them off. I'm going to be the first to say I was writing San Diego off myself. I thought, you know, they're too far in the hole. We talked about, you know, we even said it. We said, are they going to start planning for next year? Right? Are they just going to say, look, let's just get through this season and start planning for next year? But you know, I'm proud of my friend Zach Test that I play with, USA Eagles out there, right, taking on coaching responsibilities. I'm really proud of him. I spoke to him on the phone recently, and you know, he says it's stressful, right, when you're not winning games, and especially if you're San Diego, a team that is notorious for winning games. That's not a great place to wake up and be every day, right? So, you know, but like you said, they seem to be turning a corner. They're bringing in some firepower. They're bringing in some stars. They're bringing in players, and you know, they're starting to put pieces together. So you could see maybe like Atlanta in the East really starting to come into their own, and San Diego in the West really starting to come back to their winning ways as they had in years past.
Well, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. There is a bit of distance between San Diego and the other teams who are sort of bouncing around for second, third, and fourth. But, you know, they're all going to start playing each other again now. Do you know what I mean? And if LA keep up their run of beating everyone like they have been, I could see San Diego sneaking in. I could see them sneaking into that second spot and just coming through and being a really, you know, the fairy tale story of the underdogs who've been written off halfway through the season, and now they're coming good. And Mar Nonu's gone back as a player coach as well. I've seen that, you know, all exciting stuff going on there. So, you know, that could be the fixture. And, you know, it was a favor for us as well, because I watched that one thinking, yes, NOLA have missed an absolute opportunity. They've not got any points out of that. Got stuffed by San Diego. You know, hopefully Rooney will win at the weekend and we'll be top of the table. Sadly, we didn't. And Atlanta saw the opportunity anyway. But NOLA will be disappointed, but San Diego looked good. Like, they look really good. And yeah, you know, I've changed my mind completely, because I was saying with you, like, oh, them in Seattle have got to reevaluate and probably rebuild for next year. But I actually think now, after watching that, knowing what's coming in for them, I think they could have a chance of getting some momentum. It's early days. It's
a good story, folks. They were bouncing around.
I love an underdog as well.
No home, living in Vegas. Now they're back home, surfing every day. Song Wuching's got his Instagram page up with the surfboard out all the time. They're back in the groove, man. Look out, LA. Look out.
And the other teams, obviously, we just mentioned them, Seattle, DC against Seattle. Seattle struggled again. Well, actually, to be fair, DC looked a better beast. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I speak to Daddy Satala since he came on the show, and he was just saying, you know, the boys are tired, battered and bruised, got a few injuries, and he was just like, they're gritting their teeth, just trying to get through to the bye, which is in 2 weeks' time, I think. But they looked a different team. Really impressed with some of their players, and just the way they went around about it, really. And what's he called? Ratana Roberts. The winger, their new winger, looked really, really sharp. He scored a try, set one up, but I thought Danny was going to score, and he got lazy in the last 5 meters and threw it to the 13 to score. But DC, again, they're just sticking around. They're like an annoying little fly that you just can't get rid of. Every time you think they're gone, and then next minute it's just hitting you in the back of the head again. And they're still very much in it. 6 points from being top of the table. They're sitting in last, but all it takes is one bad weekend from everyone and a good one from them, and that's it.
Folks, in 2 weeks, they could be in first place. Like, we could be sitting there, and we could be like, DC was in the cellar, bottom of the table, and then bang, they're straight up to first. I don't like an
understory that much, though, Mikey. In the Eastern Conference, anyway.
Hi, I'm Carlin Isles, and you're watching USA Rugby Clubhouse.
Well, it's that time of the show again for our first guest, and it is someone that I'm very excited to get on the pod. Someone who is the definition of, probably the first one to really do it at the highest level as a crossover athlete. He is a 7 superstar who's taken the world by storm. The fastest man in professional rugby, with over 200 tries scored for USA on the 7 Series circuit. It's none other than Mr. Carlin Isles. Carlin, how are you?
Hey, my man, glad to be here. It's a pleasure.
How's everything been going since you've been back? Because it's been a little bit of a break for you Sevens boys until the COVID sort of got swept to the side, and now you're sort of getting ready. You've just been to England, is it, or you just have a little run out with the boys and have a bit of a get the legs back to feeling the sevens?
Yeah, man. It was it's good to be back, man. I haven't played in over a year, so a lot of guys have already played in a couple of tournaments, but I really haven't. So for me, it was good to get back out and kind of build some cohesion with some of the fellas, and just get back into rugby. So I missed it.
Yeah, it's always funny that you can do as much fitness and stuff like that as you want, but as soon as you're back to actually playing a game of sevens, your lungs are gone, your legs are dead, you don't know what's going on, and you need that match fitness. So I feel for you, because the sevens, I played a bit of sevens in my younger days, underneath Mike Friday as well, who's your head coach. He was my coach as well for the brief period that I did it. But I tell you what, you guys are some seriously fit dudes. Like, and that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you were just announced as one of the fittest athletes on the planet for what was the magazine that came out with the fittest?
Sports Illustrated.
There you go.
Yeah.
Taking names. That's awesome, dude. Well, congratulations on that. But what I want to talk to you about first and foremost is, obviously I mentioned when I was hyping you up at the start, is that you are the first real crossover athlete to have done it to a real high standard. And, I don't know who came up with the idea, who made the phone call to you to get you on the rugby field, but it seems to have been a very good thing for you and for American Sevens. But you are the first one to do it who's come across from being a very high caliber sprinter and transferring that skill set into playing rugby sevens. Just to tell us how that came about and how rugby came on the radar alongside the sprinting.
I was getting ready for the Olympic trials in 2012, and I was studying film, on the internet. I love studying film, how to get faster, and kind of rugby kind of popped up. And I clicked on it and I started watching it, and I saw Brian Habana, I saw Zach Tess, Miles Craigwell, and I started watching them, and I was like, dang, man, this looks kind of fun. And so I got on Google who to contact and found the CEO, Nigel Melville at the time, and I sent him an email. And the next day, he actually called me, and I started talking to him. And after that, packed up all my bags and started headed out to go play rugby.
That's awesome. And so, did you know instantly it was a game that you were going to be able to pick up because I know that you played a lot of football back in the day as well as athletics. Was it something that came quite naturally to you, or did you have to work at it and sort of, because obviously sevens is, I always think that the speed is something that you can't teach someone. And so having someone like you in their team is a threat, but you've also got to be in the right place at the right time, know how to use your speed to take people on, using your speed at the right times as well. Was it a struggle to pick up the pieces to start with, or was it something that came quite naturally?
A lot of the passing was a struggle, especially to be able to pass on my left. And I got that down okay, and just understanding the kind of game flow. It was kind of easy, I get the ball, hit on, and kind of run. Which was a kind of natural thing to me, and then be able to tackling. I knew how to tackle, but not rugby tackle, and that type of technique and putting yourself in the right positions, because you can know how to tackle, but if you're not in the right positions, then you're screwed. So, and also I think one of the biggest things was the fitness. I thought I was very fit, especially coming from track and field, but this fitness was a whole different type of fitness I never felt before. Never in my life, to be able to run at a high percentage, fast back to back over and over and over again, and not just fast one time. So the game play, the style, the more I played it, the more I got understanding of it, and then especially when I got on the USA team, and then the challenges after that was just learning how to create space a little bit. People play me differently, and then try to cut off my outside where I couldn't round people all the time. So then I had to try to learn how to go back to the drum board, and I still learn. One thing about rugby, you will never stop learning. You'll always keep learning more and more and more and more. And I'm still learning more and more. I feel like I haven't even tapped into my full potential yet. So, so bad at first, it was a little difficult, but it wasn't too bad. because I was just outpacing people.
How old were you when the first time you picked the rugby ball, Carlin?
I was 22 when I first started.
So that's impressive. 22, yeah. and obviously I don't know how long the transition was till you were on the field playing for America.
3 months.
3 months. 3
Yeah.
months, and your impact was sort of devastating. I remember that, you know, I played with players who've played against you in smaller competitions and on the series, and I remember them saying, this guy is frighteningly quick, and when you're on the field, you know, they couldn't really give you an inch on the outside because you were gone. So, you know, obviously there's speed, but there's using your feet as well, which is something that I've noticed you've worked a lot on, is sort of your in and outing, knowing when to go underneath someone and take someone on the outside. So now you're sort of a double threat. It's awesome to watch, but I just want to know your thoughts on sevens as developing you as a player. And like you said, you feel like you haven't tapped into your full potential yet, but you've got the Olympics coming up. So tell me how you're working hard with the squad to sort of develop your game and your all eyes focus for the Olympics, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just trying to, like, especially like us going to London the other day, last week, and just understanding, even though the pitch was a little smaller, it wasn't our regular size pitch, just be able to set myself up a little better. Because there was one time where I could have just cut in and scored. And I tried to round them. And it's about being a little patient, because sometimes I want to be fast all the time. Just go. And it's just setting myself up and using my feet a little more. And I haven't really got to use I haven't really tapped into my full potential as far as even setting people up and using my feet as much as I can. Because I never really have to do it a lot. You know, so now when I learn it from that, and I'm just like, you know what? When I go back to training, and even now this week off, I'm just working on setting people up better, because I can do it and kind of like instinctively, but being a little more patient and just using my steps. And I'm like, when I go back, I'm not going to round people. I'm just going to set them up. And I'm going to try to cut inside. I'm going to force myself to do it and force myself to be a little patient and get stuff wrong and be okay. I got it wrong, but okay, what did I do? And then keep doing it. Because it's easy to revert back to what's comfortable, especially in high strains and game competitions. But the more you can do it, the more comfortable you'll get, the better you can be. Because I could do it. I know I could do it. I just like, you know what, see, you haven't done this in a while, but you got to get back to it. So yeah, it's just going back to the drawing board.
I follow you on Instagram. You know, you're blowing up Instagram. You're a human highlights reel. So you've always got loads of great tries and breaks and stuff to show. One thing I always like, because I always talk to my players about it at Rooney as well, is, you know, we always say work on your weaknesses, but I also say you need to work on your strengths and always play to your strengths. And you're constantly doing speed work. You're constantly trying to improve your speed times and stuff, working with sprinters, keeping that aspect of your training going. Tell us a little bit about your training program and what you try and do to sort of stay on top and be one of the fastest wingers in the world.
So for me, so we train from like 7:30 to 3:30. Like what? We got gym, 2 field sessions. So I'll go and I'll do another speed session. So I'll do probably like 4 to 5 sessions in a day, while everybody else only do 3. So I have to do a bunch of more either speed work or speed endurance work on my top end. And I go like early in the morning, so maybe 5 or 6, or I go in between a session. So after a weight room or after a first session, field session. And I work on my aerobic system, my anaerobic capacity. So I work on be able to run back to back fast, back to back, and then be able to work on my pure speed, where I'm running at a high velocity, or 95 to 100%, just to work on my speed reserve. And then I'm working on a lot of acceleration stuff. So for me, I know that if I only do rugby stuff, that I'm only gonna tap in. I won't be as fast as what I am now, because people only do what they're told to do. But the thing is, if you don't train something, or you don't train being fast, or you don't train your top end, you'll lose it. That's what people don't understand. You will lose it. And then you adapt to whatever training that you do. So for me, I know, especially when it comes to me mentally, that I know if I'm fast, and I'm the fastest, I know that regardless, when I step on the field, I'm confident. because I'm fat. That's what makes, because I do so much rugby stuff that's taken care of. But I have to do stuff outside of that to make sure I stay on top of me being fast, because I'll lose it. So then I'm always working on different aspects of my games, because I do so much rugby stuff that I don't need to do a lot of extra stuff when it comes to that. And I do stuff a little bit maybe before sessions, but I have to spend a lot of time on my speed stuff, because that's what makes me me. And that's what separates me from everybody else. And that helps my confidence wise. So for me, it's all about the process when it comes to things. So as long as I know my boxes are ticked, when it comes to gameplay, there's no hesitation, there's no doubt, there's no question, and this and that, because I've done everything I need to do to be able to feel the way I need to be felt. And that's fast. As long as I feel fast, I know that I'm good.
Do you find it hard to stay 100% fit all the time? Because I know being fast twitch, being a sprinter as well, your body's sort of like a fine-tuned machine. Is it hard to stay on top of that, being a contact sport and that sort of thing?
It's not too hard, because we do a lot of running throughout the week anyways. We cover about maybe 30K. But the thing is, we have to stay on top of it, because it's easier to lose. So for me, I think I try to make sure that, my main thing is the aerobic, the speed endurance, the repeated speed endurance. That's what's hard. Like, because you have to run fast over and over and over and over and over again, and you got to have that capacity. And if you don't train that capacity, it's going to be hard. You do one hard or 2-3 hard sprints, and you'll be done. So to be able to sprint, have 45 seconds, 30-second rest to recover, and then try to do it again and play defense. We train, so we'll have like our hard days, which maybe 2 days out of the week, whereas, maybe combat conditioning, which will involve tackling, backflips or whatever, and then you be able to do running after that. So we keep that throughout the whole year, so which is good for fitness wise, aerobically. And then anaerobically, when we play chaos, which is like basically chaos games, a bunch of playing based off of, you may go 45 seconds on or 3 minutes on and 3 minutes off, whatever, not 3 minutes off, but a short rest recovery. So that's kind of tough, because it's just nonstop action. Mm-hmm. And then you may have to do some fitness at the end. But with rugby, we're always training that. So if you end up getting hurt, then you're on the bike. You're doing assault bike, you're doing rowing, you're doing a bunch of stuff. So they're going to keep you fit. So
let's stay off.
Trust me, it's brutal. And I'm telling you, being hurt is worse than freaking training.
I'm 100% the same thing. Same with like physios. They get the bit that hurts and push it until you say, you know what, I'm good. I'll get back on the field. Yeah. Stop hurting me more. I know what you're feeling. Yeah. And listen, all this training, obviously hours and hours on the field, staying fit and healthy, doing the circuits. I'm guessing it's all geared towards this Olympic Games, because I know you had big aspirations as a team in the last one and it didn't quite go to plan. But, America have been in the top 3 of the world in terms of sevens for the last 3 or 4 seasons. You must have massive aspirations for this upcoming Olympics. How excited are you to get out there and show what America has?
I'm big excited, because we made a lot of improvements throughout the years. So for us, it's, trying to put all the pieces together and make sure everybody's healthy and get everybody back and show we're capable of showing, because we've done it throughout the years. And it's just like, the thing that matters most is probably the Olympics, and then nobody cares what you've done in the past. So for us, it's really put a stamp and show how, America is a threat in rugby, and we're a powerhouse, and show them exactly what we're capable of doing, what we can do. So, we really want to show that in this upcoming Olympics.
And some of you guys in the sevens have really become like the pin-up boys of rugby in America, because, as soon as rugby became an Olympic sport, it sort of got that sort of recognition. It became professional. Guys like yourself, Perry Baker, and other guys involved. Nate Ebner's another guy transitioned from American football to the sevens and stuff for the Olympics. Obviously now the MLR's been introduced, which is the 15-a-side game. Have you ever thought about maybe coming to play 15-a-side rugby, or sevens just what you?
I don't know. I love sevens. I've thought about it. Like, if it wasn't for COVID, I was thinking I was going to probably play for the how you call it?
The Guiltinis.
Guillotines in LA. But the Olympics got pushed back another year. So I think that the MLR is looking really good, man. I like it. It's I think I could do some damage in there, and it looks pretty fun, and it's growing just like the sevens has grown, and it's getting bigger. It's getting a lot more competitive as well. They're getting people from different countries as well. So it's pretty cool, man. It's good to see.
Do you watch a lot of rugby, Carlin? Are you one of these guys? Are you one of these guys who likes to watch a bit of rugby as well, or when you play it, do you like to step away and just enjoy other sports and step away, or do you like to keep an eye on what's going on in the MLR and the Premiership and the?
Yeah, I like to keep an eye. I like to keep an eye on it because it's fun. I think rugby is a great sport, man. I'm so glad I got introduced to it, and you get to see all these different. There's a lot of great rugby players out there, and sometimes like, dang, I like how he did that. How you do that? You know what I mean? And it's you always take something from it. So, it's a great sport to watch.
And so you just mentioned that you're interested in coming to play. Does that mean watch out 2022 after the Olympic Games? Carlin Isles going to be looking for
yeah, watch out. You know what I'm saying? You may see me out there.
I think I might need to retire then next year before I see you on the wing. I don't know if embarrassed like that in the rugby field. So we've gone through it all. I just want to talk about sort of like being in the sevens, what it's like to be in the changing rooms, because obviously the seven circuit's taking you all around the world, traveling around the world, playing all around the world. And like I mentioned before, America really come in the scene probably over the last 6 or 7 years, since probably you sort of came in and they sort of went and sort of headhunted sort of certain athletes to play in the sevens. I just want you to explain to like the viewers, Hong Kong, places like that, when you're in the finals, when you're trying to win trophies, what's the feeling like? Do you still get those nerves, those butterflies when the big fixtures come up?
Yeah, you get them nerves and those butterflies, but you try to, it's okay to feel those butterflies as long as you can get them to fly information. So and just channel it. So we do a lot of stuff with psychologists and things like that to try to get you to be able to feel however you want to feel and not get too overworked or think too much, and know how to channel your emotions. So it gets exciting, and it's just like when you were in there and you're debriefing, or you're trying to get everybody to hey, this is this is what we work hard for, and it's go time. So getting everybody to be on the same page and feel that energy and that vibe, and you see different players how some people may listen to music, some people may talk to themselves. It's just like everybody's different, and everybody's trying to get their mind focused and right on the task and what they need to do to be out there and perform. But once you go out there and you're in that tunnel and you hold your hand on your chest in the final, and you see everybody, and you're singing the national anthem, and it's crazy. And then once it's like it's go time, baby, we here. So it's an incredible feeling, man. The atmosphere is different, and it's so crazy. I think the energy that we have in the locker room, we like to bump music and get ourselves pumped up and ride, and it's different, man. It's just like for us, we know what works for us, and we keep that kind of that certainty going because it's what's helped us. And everybody's different. Some people need a little different here and different there, and it's chaotic at sometimes, but it's kind of organized at the same time, because you see everybody doing this or doing that, and some people just chill and whatever they need. But it's fun, man. It's fun. But once you cross those white lines, I feel like everything just all the nervousness, all that thing just dies out and just tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And it's just you just go at it.
Yeah, you're similar to me. I used to enjoy all the hype, all the crowd looking around, but then as soon as they blew the whistle, the ball kicked off, all of it was gone.
Yep.
Just another game of rugby. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Right, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and one I want you to do is I want you to pick any players you've played with or against, whether it's in 15 sevens, to make your ultimate seven side. Obviously, you're gonna be the starting on one wing, so obviously you're the starter on one wing. So I need 6 other guys.
I'll say Dan Norton. I like Perry, Danny Barrett, Madison Hughes, Maka. Who else? Man, Stuart Hogg.
You aren't like
Stuart Hogg.
Yeah,
I
Hoggy.
like Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't
like
lacking any
Hoggy, man.
pace anyway. You ain't lacking any pace in that team. All wheels in the back. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's nice to know where your head's at. You know, speed wins all the battles.
Speed. Yeah, you got that right, baby.
Speed kills, baby.
Speed kills, man. Nothing like it.
Interesting. I'm going to talk to a guest later on who's this week. It's mental fitness week in the MLR. I don't know if you've seen that we wear the t-shirt train, and they do it over in England, Southern Hemisphere. They normally give a week to that sort of thing, where a lot of players, professional athletes, you know, come into this world and they have to leave it by some way, whether they don't get a contract, whether they get an injury, or whether they retire, and then they struggle with their mental problems. And that can come in a number of different ways in the today's like society that we live in, especially with you know, Instagram, social media, doing YouTube shows and podcasts and things like that. Have you had to deal with any of that? Because I know that you have a big following on Instagram. Do you ever have to deal on the daily with hate and stuff when you haven't done well in competitions, or people just getting up against you? How do you deal with that?
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. Jordan Carmero. Now we had a conversation about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And like people try to hate, or people try to, you know, if you do something, say if you get stiff armed or something like that, and then you suck, or you know something happened, and they just try to bring you down. You know what I mean? Like, and you realize like nobody's perfect. Like, and the thing is, if you get sucked into what everybody else say or feel, you'll lose yourself and your value. And one thing about me, I know my value as a man. My value doesn't come from anybody external. Doesn't matter what I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of doing, and nobody can bring me down unless you allow them to. So the mental part is very important. But I've seen a lot of people, man. Somebody say something, or they get it. They lose who they are, and they're not confident. You know what I'm saying? Just because you make one mistake and they just get all frantic or nervous, or think this and that. We're too busy worried about it. Doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter at all. Like, and for me, it almost fuels me. It fuels me. Like, if somebody doubt me or say something, it fuels me. Like, it fuels me. And when I go on that pitch, boy, like, I'm carrying, like, literally, like, okay, just watch. And I take it out.
Don't give me the fuel, I'll burn you.
Yeah, don't give me the fuel, because that's one thing you don't want to do. It's fuel me, dog, because I love proving people wrong. Yeah. I will prove you wrong.
And you have one ability that scares the life out of everyone. So what is your official 100-meter time, your PB?
10:13.
10:13.
Yeah.
Jeez. I heard a rumor as well, Carlin. Is it true that you were at one point in the top 40 fastest people on the planet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That is a ridiculous stat to have.
It is.
I love your story, Carlin, because you have really come in and changed sevens for everyone. They're all looking around now. And we talk about it in the MLR and in the 15-a-side game, is getting those crossover athletes, whether it's from athletics, whether it's from basketball, whether it's from the NFL. So it's awesome to see someone like you shining. And I love your vibe, man. I love your attitude. You're a very positive guy. And I love the way you play the game. So thank you very much for coming on the Clubhouse and sharing your ideas and your thoughts on the game.
Thank you, man. You're a great host. I mean, I love this podcast right here, man. I got something special going on, man. You're a great player as well. So
cheers, buddy.
Hopefully we play against each other again.
I don't know about that. I really don't want to see you one-on-one in the back.
Oh, man.
You'll just see me turn and put my head down and run as fast as I can to the corner.
Hey,
step in.
If you try to run me off, I'm gonna just close my eyes and try to grasp.
All right, cheers, dude. Thank you very much. Take care, buddy.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's Joey Zauzig, and you are watching USA Rugby Clubhouse. Period, man. So I'm just kidding. You can cut that.
Okay, I'm very excited for our next guest. Obviously, on the Clubhouse, we like to bring new faces, new interesting characters, and this guy is a good friend of mine, but a very good friend of my wife, so I have to be on my best behavior. He is a male model, a fashion and fitness enthusiast, influencer, and motivational speaker, and a very 21st century man. It is Mr. Joey Zauzig. Joey, how are you, buddy?
Woo, I'm so good. I'm really, really excited to be here. And I'm really happy to see you. Congratulations on the baby and Jackie. Like, I feel like you have so much going on, and I'm really proud of you guys.
I
It
know.
looks amazing.
A lot has happened since I saw you last, to be honest. I remember seeing you in old 49 Ludlow, where we used to live, and we've moved on from there, and now we're Brooklynites now. But yeah, a lot has changed.
I did not know that. A lot has changed.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed.
well, you've moved. You first and foremost, you've moved. You've left the East Coast. You've transferred to the West Coast.
Well, listen, for influencers in any kind of industry, it's important to diversify whatever you're doing. And I'm going to say for the time being that I'm bi-coastal, because we do still have an apartment in New York and a house in LA. So we'll be back and forth. Let's say bi-coastal for right now.
That's the right answer, Joey. That is the right answer. Anyway, Joey, listen, it's great to have you on the USA Rugby Clubhouse. Plenty to talk about. You are a very unique character and a very, like I said in the introduction, a very modern 21st century man. And in terms of, there's not many people who can sort of put themselves under the category of influencer, especially someone like yourself, because you haven't done it off the back of a reality TV show. You haven't been a sports star or anything like that. You've grown it from off your own back, in a fewer words. And just tell us, like, how did you get into that industry, and what made you think, yeah, this is what I want to do with my time and my effort? And obviously now you're reaping the rewards and you're doing very well. But tell us where your mindset began to sort of step into that.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. I think a lot of people become influencers from, piggybacking off of a reality TV show, or, gaining fame from outside of just Instagram. And for me, I did it really traditionally, where I was working in PR and fashion and magazines. And honey, I just realized at that moment I was not meant to be behind the scenes. I was meant to be in front of the camera. And I just started posting my outfits, and I started posting my day-to-day, and people just kind of took a big interest to it. And recently, over the past year, I've really shifted my audience and my brand to just uplifting motivational speaking and kind of just sharing my past experiences and being a complete open book with my audience 24/7. And that's really been my sweet spot. It's been the most fulfilling thing about, rather than just, being fitness and fashion and lifestyle and travel, it's more than that. And it's really helped people. And the messages that I get on the daily are unmatched. And it's a good feeling. And I'm really proud of, like, where it's going.
Well, this is another reason why I wanted you to come on the show, because this week it's actually Mental Fitness Week in the MLR. The MLR is Major League Rugby now, which is the professional league of rugby. And I know it's something that you're very positive, forward-thinking. You leave very motivational messages on your Instagram. And I wanted to know, is that because you suffered at the hands of negative comments and people trolling and things like that, like sports stars get as well? How have you sort of wrapped your head around all that and then spun it in the way that you have to be so positive and such a glass half full kind of guy?
You get hate comments? I'm surprised. I mean, like, hate comments. So exactly. It's so relative to what sports stars go through too. And that's kind of like what my videos are speaking to. And it's really about the hardships that I've had to go through. And then, you think you get over the adolescence type of bullying, and then there's a whole bigger thing about cyberbullying. Whenever there's a magnifying glass on you, more and more people start coming out of the woodworks. More and more people, are going to judge you for your every move. And it's kind of relative to sports, because you could play really bad one day and you could know it yourself, but when thousands of people have the opportunity to remind you or to shit on you, it doesn't make it any better. And mentally, it really gets you down. It really takes a strong person. And it takes someone reminding you that you need to kind of snap back into it and remember that those people don't matter, and that those extra voices on the side are only going to bog you down. So it really is up to you to snap yourself out of it. And I'm kind of like the angel on your shoulder reminding you that not to listen to others.
Well, it is something that happens in sport all the time, especially when mental health is such a big thing when you're playing, because obviously, like you mentioned, when you don't play well, you're reminded, fans get on your back. But also the big thing for mental health for sportsmen is they're in the limelight, and then all of a sudden their career finishes and they have to go get a normal job, and they just can't, get themselves into a position where they feel mentally stimulated, physically stimulated. And so they struggle with mental health and what they're doing next. Obviously, when you're a professional sportsman as well, you have a lot of toll on your body. So you have injuries and you pick up niggles and things like that. And it's very important that, after the game is finished, that these guys get the right kind of help and stay really positively mindset in terms of, living the rest of their lives. And so seeing someone like you, who is sort of constantly reminding people, listen, that there's always something around the corner, and if you're willing to work hard and you have a positive mindset on what you're doing and what you're about, and you're giving off good vibes, then you receive good vibes back. I think it's very important, and I love that sort of message that you send out.
You really hit the nail on the head with everything. I mean, that's pretty much my message, and you're right, and especially with sports players, like, I mean, this week is obviously all about mental health and mental health awareness, and that's so true that, like, there's more than just the mental mind, but also you guys go through as athletes the physical toll. And working for yourself and not working for a 9-to-5 job and doing something obscure that most people wouldn't have a career long term with, it's fucking hard some days to wake up in the morning and motivate yourself, because some days you wake up and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what is all this for? And I'm kind of like that light to wake people up and be like, because I'm sure you have to do it, and I'm sure I've had to do it, and I'm sure your teammates have to do it. We all have to take the strength and the mental strength to look at ourselves in the mirror and to wake up and be like, this is what I'm meant to be doing, and this is where I'm supposed to do it. But it's not easy. And I think that's where the hard part comes in, especially when, for sports, you have coaches and you have teammates. And then on top of that, you have people on social media and you have trolls. And there's so many like different kinds of things coming at you all at once. So, it's good to have someone to remind you, like, hey, you're killing it. You're a fucking boss. And just telling you the things that, like, you might not tell yourself every day that can really help people, catapult to their best selves.
I love it, Joey. I love it. Listen, I wanted to pick your brain as well, because you're a very creative guy. And like I mentioned before, you've built your brand from scratch. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort. And now, you're associated with big brands, whether it's in the fitness industry, whether it's in the male modeling industry, clothes, sunglasses, cars, things like that. I wanted to pick your brain because obviously you've done that with yourself. And the MLR is a new professional sport into America. And America has the big four. It has, NFL, basketball, baseball, and ice hockey. And now the MLR has to find a place with that. But how does it compete, and how does it sort of compete with those top four? Because obviously you grew up in America. You probably, played sports when you were in high school and that sort of stuff. What is it about American sports that sort of makes it stand out? Because I'm an Englishman, come over to America. I love it. I love the whole show. I love that it's entertainment. I love, the cheerleaders. I love the halftime performances. I love, the mascots doing stupid stuff at halftime, firing T-shirts into the crowd. Does the MLR follow that base and really Americanize rugby? Because it's a very British and Southern Hemisphere sport. But I think for rugby to be unique in America, does it need to bring all the razzmatazz?
Listen, the razzmatazz is, I think, what does make up a big part of American sports. And I think it does make up a big part of, there's something to say about going to a basketball game or going to a football game and having the rah-rah and the cheerleaders. Some people just want to drink and just go and be in a box and have their friends. But, then there's like the percentage of like the die-hard sports people, which, to be completely honest with you, I don't think the biggest percentage is the really diehard sports fan. I think the bigger percentage of the people that are making it so big in the media is the people that like the razzmatazz and the cheerleaders and the halftime. Bitch, I live for a halftime show. So like, I know that I'm going to see that halftime show to see who's performing or whatever it may be. So, I think for the MLR, like, I think that it definitely needs to have some sort of frenzy surrounding it, because to be honest, before this interview, like, I watched some games and some YouTube videos, and it's interesting because it's so similar to a soccer or a football, and it's the same thing. Add some, glitz and glam and media and cameras and famous people and the Kardashians on the damn floor. Like, we're good to go. I think it does need a little bit of that.
Well, there is a team you'll be glad to know, Joey, in LA. There's a new team in LA who play at the LA Coliseum. The owner is a guy called Adam Gilchrist, who is very out there. He's the Australian owner of F45 Gyms, which you're probably familiar with as well.
Oh, I know him.
Oh, really? Yeah. So he's the owner. He is big into it, and they have got some big superstars playing over there. And they've had, our guests from other shows, Tom and Nicole. Tom Evans is a good friend of mine who's dating Nicole Scherzinger. They were at a game.
Wait, Nicole Scherzinger is my best friend.
Oh, really? Yeah. So Nicole,
actually, my best. I'm obsessed with her, and I knew that she was dating him. I didn't know that you knew him, but I haven't met him yet. This is so crazy.
So
Nicole is a really good friend of mine. She is the most amazing girl ever, and he's so sexy. I forgot that he's a rugby player. All of you guys are hot. I'm sorry, but if you don't know a lot about rugby, that's one thing that every rugby player, it's like, I don't know what it is, but every rugby player is so sexy and hot, and you gotta have a six-pack, boo. You gotta have a chiseled face, some scruff. It's very rugged. Rugby, yeah. I guess. There we go.
I guess that we have someone for all tastes as well, because we've got the bigger guys in the front row, the tall guys in the second row, the more skinny, muscly guys playing in the backs and stuff. So
can I ask you something?
Yeah, go on then.
Where would I fit in the rugby round? Where would I fit in the field?
Joey, if I'm honest, you're too pretty to play in the forwards. You're too pretty to play in the forwards, mate. You'd have to be. I think you'd play like a centre or even a wing.
I could get dirty then.
Yeah, how tall are you? You're quite tall though. You're quite big.
6'4".
6'4". Yeah. See, I'll probably play like inside centre. I think because you're a big guy. I think you carry the ball hard. I was going to ask you this question. I was going to say, are you strictly a spectator, or would you like to partake in a bit of rugby? Get you on the field every now and then.
Listen, honey, if it's going to give me a six-pack in your body, I'm down to do it. For sure. I'll do whatever it takes.
So one thing that you're really into as well is fitness, health and fitness, nutrition and living a healthy lifestyle. And one of your things is a glow up. You love a glow up, and you are constantly posting old pictures of yourself when you were a kid, and to the lengths you've let, you do all sorts of shoots and modeling shoots. So, you've got 16-year-old Joey to, 23-year-old Joey who's now wearing shades and a half-cut shirt, and he's all tanned and looking good.
Period.
Why was it? Were you a sporty kid, or is the gym and fitness just come to you because you're like, I want to be healthy, I want to look healthy, and that's sort of like what I want to preach?
That's a good question. I mean, people, I think, assume that I've always been really active and good at sports, but the truth is I was not really into sports just because I never felt like I fit in. But I was good at basketball, I was good at tennis, I was really good at volleyball, but I didn't like the activity of it for some reason. And when I was going through really hard times when I was younger, mentally, I was just, when I moved to New York, I was having a really hard time. I was poor, I was broke, I was upset in the gym and fitness, and being a part of, I guess, sort of like an Equinox and being a part of something, it really helped me. Just having that routine of going to the gym every day was the biggest thing that really made me successful and to start my whole career, because it just gave me something really excited to wake up for in the morning, and something I put energy into that I could just zone out and focus on that and get really good at. And that's kind of how it all started when it came to fitness. And right now I'm in the best shape of my life, I have to say, and I'm getting there, but I'm, the routine is really mentally, it's my number one advice for everyone is get into a routine, go to the gym and, put your energy into that.
I always think that going to the gym, it becomes addictive, that you need to get to the gym. You need to start your day off right. I need to have a healthy breakfast, go to the gym, get the blood flowing. And if you don't, you just feel a bit lethargic for your day. And then you're always sort of oh God, I should have gone to the gym and started my day right, sort of thing.
100%. I feel that all the time. And I think once you get into it, first of all, I think you can agree with this, getting back into for the first time, getting over that hump and that momentum to get it going is hard as fuck. But then once you get it going, then you have those feelings where you're like, oh my God, I didn't go to the gym today. It's already 3:00 and I haven't gotten there yet. And, it's all a give and take in life. It's all a balance. But, mentally, you just always have to check it on yourself.
Okay, another question for you. I'm sure you have read the headlines and seen that a couple of influencers who have decided to make the leap into professional sport, talking about Logan and Jake Paul, who have become professional boxers. And to be fair, what they're doing is pretty impressive. A lot of people thought it was all talk, and then especially with Jake Paul giving it, he's built himself a big reputation now as a sort of a bad guy in the sport, but people love that. People love the entertainment in professional sports of having a bad guy, a good guy. They love all the show. And someone like him who's come from this world of influencing and YouTube and that sort of stuff, and now he's transitioned across into professional sport, and he's getting paid millions of dollars to do these fights now. Can you see more of that sort of happening in professional sport, do you think? And obviously the other way around as well, with professional sportsmen becoming such massive influencers and having big social followings. And, there's so many crazy things happening in the social media world now, especially with crypto and e-coins and things like that. But
it's taking over.
It is, it really is. And these two guys are doing something that I find really fascinating.
To answer your question, so I'm in that world and I live in LA, so I know people and I know them, and I go to dog pounds, so there's always the people. It's funny now that Logan and Jake are taking on that boxing role and they're getting paid millions of dollars. I hope it doesn't start transition that way. I hope everyone doesn't think that, oh, I'm an influencer, so I'm going to start going boxing and going into like doing these things, because he got paid so much fucking money. But I go to dog pound, and I am going to name names, whatever. But like Bryce Hall, who's a really big influencer and was dating Addison Rae and is friends with Jake Paul and Logan. So I don't think people know this. So this might be spilling the tea too much. But I go to dog pound. He's been training like boxing there. So I think he's now trying to like follow in their footsteps, which I think is, I don't know. I'm like, you're dancing in front of the camera, like when you were Gen Z, Gen X, whatever the fuck it is. And I don't think you have to become a boxing star because they are, but I think a lot of Gen Z is kind of chasing after the money. And I'm not sure exactly, like, are you passionate about this, or do you see dollar signs and the sponsorships and the glitz and the glam? And that goes back to sort of what we were talking about with American sports in general. Americans in general are just so fascinated by the dollar signs and the glitz and glam. And I think, seeing Bryce Hall training now is funny. Just everyone's kind of looking at Jake and Logan trying to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, what's been impressive about Jake and Logan, though, is obviously they had fame and they had money, but it's meant that now they've got into the boxing, they have, top-rate nutritionists, they have a regime to follow, they have brilliant trainers and conditioners, and they aren't messing around, because especially with me, with Jake Paul, it's sort of a split. You're either on team Jake Paul or you're against him. And
100%.
Yeah,
I'm on team Jake Paul, by the way. I will be team Jake Paul.
Yeah, well, I think I wasn't to begin with, because I was a professional athlete and I was like, who's this joker who's coming to? But now I sort of am, because I see how serious he takes it, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's manipulating. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to get the pay-per-views. He knows that it's the money. Floyd Money Mayweather and McGregor, they've done it for years. They know to manipulate the market. You've got to be a big character. You've got to, attract an audience, and he's doing that. And the two or three fights that he's had, he's looked pretty impressive. I mean, he hasn't fought anyone who's a proper boxer yet. So I'm looking forward to him stepping in a ring with there was talks of Tommy Fury, who's Tyson Fury's younger brother, who was a Love Islander back in England, who's a bit of a influencer himself, but his brother is like the heavyweight champion back in England. So there was talk of that fight, and I would love to see that fight.
It's funny because it's kind of like the modeling industry is like turning into like, what is this going to be now, sports, and what's happening with the sports industry, because you're talking about these people that were on Love Island that are like influencers, and now they're pivoting to being athletes. So, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm totally supportive of it, but it's a little shook worthy, because we're like, are these people passionate? But that's why I am team Jake Paul, because I do see him putting in work and I do see him putting in time. He's obviously good. So, we have to just, we have to support it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's just interesting to see the way the world is turning now, because, in the olden days, the only celebrities were if you were on TV, if you were a film star, or if you were a professional sportsman. And they didn't have social media. There was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was no things like that. Whereas now it seems like there's definitely a new generation of sort of like reality TV stars and influencers that are rising to the forefront. And it's definitely a skill to do what you do. It's not easy. I have a bit of a social media following, but I am useless. My engagement is useless. I post useless pictures. Normally
it's a lot of work, honey. It's a lot of mental mind fuck every single day. And that's why it's like with what you do, like, did you have social media? Was Instagram around when you first started rugby for any rugby player?
Not when I first started. No, it was sort of like, well, I remember when Twitter first came out, obviously before Instagram, that's how old I am.
Oh,
When
yes.
Twitter first came out, I was on Twitter, and I remember I used to do a question and answer, and I used to be the #1 trending person on Twitter worldwide when it first started. That's how old I am. And now, no one does that unless you're a Jake Paul or you're a Floyd Money Mayweather or LeBron James or something.
100%. So when did you like get your blue check mark, bitch? When did you start like growing?
Quite early, yeah. So quite early, I got it quite
like
early
right
on.
when you made an Instagram, pretty much, right?
Yeah, literally, yeah. Within a couple of weeks, I had a blue tick, yeah. And obviously, that's another thing in America. I never realized, because obviously in England, it's a smaller country and there's probably more blue ticks given out. But I know over here in America, the blue tick is a very sought after thing. That
they do not come easy.
Jackie used to tell me all the time how you were chasing the blue tick, and you eventually.
Because Jackie used to give me shit about it all the time, like, why don't you? Because she knew it bothered me, but it took me years to get it, for sure.
Okay, right, and I want to ask you a few questions about rugby now, because you've mentioned you're now sort of bi-coastal, but you spend a lot of time in New York. What sports do you go to when you're in New York? Because obviously New York's sort of a hub. It's got the Jets, the Giants. It's got the Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets. They've got a lot of sports teams here. What were your go-to sporting events?
I definitely like a Giants fan for sure. So I would go to Giants games, but like, honey, I'm only going to the games if I'm in a box or if I'm on the floor. Like, I don't want to sit in the nosebleeds. It's not, for me, the experience isn't the same. But I've been to the U.S. Open 4 times. I've been with Mercedes-Benz, and that experience is just unmatched. Tennis is one of the sports that I still play and I'm very good at. And like, so watching that for me is just, it's so fun. And it's just, you can get drunk, and there's what are those melon drinks called again at tennis at the US Open?
The melon drinks.
What? Ben, yes, you must know them.
I'm English.
They're famous at the US Open.
Strawberries and cream. That's all we drink. We have strawberries and cream at Wimbledon and champagne.
Oh, well, I'm coming to Wimbledon. I love a strawberries and cream moment, so I'm down.
Listen, I've ruined Wimbledon for myself. I went in the royal box. I got introduced to the crowd with my dad. So now I can't go again. I can't go to the Wimbledon because I've experienced it right at the top level. It's sort of ruined it for me.
See, that's why. It's like, that's why I can't go to Coachella ever again. Because once you go with the celebrity or the singer that's singing there, it's like you can't go and sit in the damn nosebleed. So when it comes to sports in New York or LA, I want it to be top tier. So hopefully, I haven't been to any sporting events. Obviously, it's been COVID, so since I moved to LA, but hopefully when things start opening up again, and I think they said like, I don't know, like I feel like people have been starting to go. I've been seeing people going to arenas and sitting in the boxes. So I'm excited.
It's all starting to open up again. But I wanted to know who would be your team in the MLR. Which team I'll list them out for you. There's New York,
Thank you.
There's LA, there's DC, there's New England, there's Toronto, there's Atlanta, there's NOLA, there's San Diego, Austin, Houston, Utah, and Seattle.
I think DC, because I'm like from DC, so it'll be, so that I have to go with them. Can I ask you something? So when it comes to rugby players, famous rugby players like yourself, is there any gay rugby players, openly out gay rugby players?
So there was a guy called Gareth Thomas, who's a Welsh guy, but he waited till his career finished. And it was very interesting, Gareth Thomas, because he was a Welsh guy, tattoos, captained their team, was a hardy, strong, looked like a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. And then he came out and I think he did Celebrity Big Brother over in England. And it was funny because he was such a masculine guy. And then when finally that sort of weight released off his shoulders, you could see that he was a lot more camper and a lot more at ease with himself. And it was quite beautiful to see because he started to do reality TV and things off the back of it. And it was quite nice thing to see because you can see that he had kids and a wife and he sort of hid behind it. And it was quite, and obviously there's plenty more players, Joe, I'm sure, who are gay.
For sure, that aren't out yet.
And in sport, I just think in sport in general, there aren't many who are brave enough to take that because, yes, we do live in a very forward-thinking world, but sport is sport, and you can't. There's always bad eggs. Do you know what I mean? And there's always that. And the thing is, we're a very, we have 100 comments, 99 of them are positive, and 1 is negative. And the one that negative eats away at you. Do you know what I mean?
It eats away. And I get that because, you're you're playing every day, you're playing on the field, and the distraction of even the negative comments and the distraction of what people's opinions are, you can totally fuck up your whole game. And like, there's just so many aspects, and it's hard for people because I think now more and more people in the NFL and MLB, like people are starting to come out more, but it's just interesting because like, there's a whole other world when it comes to coming out and like people's opinions, and like we're forward thinking, but we're not there yet. But especially in sports.
Well, I think if you can come out and own it and be a confident gay man in professional sports and still kill it at sports, like at the top level, dude, you will be a superstar. You will
hats
be
off, yeah, for sure.
But you've got to have that confidence, and the thing is, you can't force that on anyone. They have to be able to come out in their own time. So, actually, saying that, Joey. Obviously, you mentioned Tom Evans, who's going out with Nicole. So Tom and I did the X Factor back in England, the Celebrity X Factor, and we had that's how he met Nicole, through doing that. So him and I and another guy called Levi Davis, who's another rugby player for Bath, who's a bit younger than us, and he came out as bisexual. So he's probably the closest guy to it that's been out. So he's still playing, and I think actually he's just signed a music record deal off the back on it. He's left us alone. We were called TriStar, and he's gone off and signed his own record deal now. So
here we go. We have X Factor, music, fucking everyone's going in different directions. I love it.
It's all good. Like I said, like rugby is very new. It's only in its fourth year. 1 year was sort of void because of COVID. It's this fourth year in the MLR. And the big thing now is everyone is watching from outside America. All, England, Europe is a very big rugby playing continent. Same with the Southern Hemisphere, New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. And we have big stars from all over. So Matt Gitto is a big star who plays for the LA team, Adam Ashley Cooper, myself, Chris Robshaw, who's captain of England, have all come over to this American league to sort of see what it's all about. And everyone's sort of watching and waiting to see how this league is going to pan out. And if it becomes the league that everyone hopes it to become, because if it becomes, like American football, like baseball, millions of dollars, $1 million contracts and that sort of stuff, then it will sort of change the face of rugby worldwide. But the thing that we struggle with, and I think the sport is struggling with the most, is finding new fans, finding, a sports fan, but not necessarily a sports fan, but finding you talk about tailgating, you talk about the entertainment, the halftime shows, and making it a real experience. How do we turn heads in that sort of audience to come to a rugby game, encourage people to get down and watch the real thing and not wait for it to watch on TV?
I mean, my honest opinion is really like, I think that we're in such a good, vulnerable state, America as a whole. And I think that everyone's kind of looking and eager for something new and something different. And I feel like a big thing is definitely social media, obviously, and finding people like yourself or like your teammates on Instagram and like having this interesting, that's creating media frenzy. And then people start going crazy and they want to come see you and they want to come to the fields and they want to experience and just like making it a really dope experience. I think, getting some celebrities there and posting about you and them, like that's how it's going to be. You have to do the razzle dazzle or whatever you called it earlier. That's exactly what it needs, a little bit of that. And I think that it could become major in the US.
Well, Joey, there'll be tickets on the stand for you. Jackie will be sitting there with a Foden jersey on, I'm sure, if you're coming to support me. But thank you very much for jumping on, Joey. It's been awesome to speak to you because, I love speaking to new people. I love what you're doing. I love what you're about. And having someone like you interested in rugby, interested enough to come on this show and talk to us about your ideas and what you're doing and reaching out to sort of your fans saying, rugby's a great game to be involved with, go and watch.
For sure.
It's awesome. You're helping us grow the game. I wish you all the luck in the future. You're a top guy, and hopefully I'll see you very soon. You won't be stuck on that West Coast for too long, and you'll come back to the East Coast, and
I'll be back soon. Don't worry. And I want a Foden jersey, please. I need a jersey.
Foden jersey and tickets to the game. No problem.
That's all I need. Thank you so much.
No problem, buddy.
Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair.
Well, Mikey, I know that you missed out on interviewing our two guests this week. Carlin Isles, American superstar, the fastest rugby player on the planet. Always interesting to talk to someone like that, getting his take on what's going on with American rugby, but also his preparation to the Olympics. And then a good friend of mine, Joey Zauzig, nothing to do with the rugby world, but I kind of love it when I interview people like that, just to get their perspective on American sports and rugby in America. And because everyone in America sort of knows rugby. They just think it's some crazy guys running around without pads on. And speaking to Joey, I like to pick his brain about all the different things that he can sort of associate with rugby, which is sort of like, the last couple of weeks we've seen it in the MLR. The guys are wearing the shirts, the mental fitness week. It's all going on back in England as well with the RPA and their mental health is a big thing in professional sports, Mikey. And I don't know if you've come across it much yourself, but I definitely have. So a lot of players, friends of mine, have suffered from it very badly. And it's been sort of something that's definitely been brought to the forefront of people's attention in professional sport. And I know it happens here in America as well with NFL and basketball players. And these guys are in the limelight and they make all this money and suddenly an injury happens and, the career that they thought they were going to have of 10, 15 years making millions of dollars suddenly is over in a heartbeat. And you're sort of left thinking, what do I do now? And it is quite a daunting challenge. And even for someone like me and probably you, Mikey, who have had our career, we've got to our ripe old age of 35, 36, and you think, what do we do now? Luckily for you, you're a smart man and that you got a degree and you've got something to do for the next 30 years. I on the other hand, wanted to be a commentator and you stole that job. So it is quite daunting when you think about, I've got to find something to do with the next 30 years of my life, and it might not be in rugby. And if you can't find, there's only a certain amount of jobs in coaching, in broadcasting, and that sort of thing. And so these guys, they do struggle, and it's good to see that they're being looked after, and it's being highlighted even early on in the MLR.
Yeah, Fodes, you're resilient. You're landing on your feet. Don't worry about it. You retired. You're going to be retiring a year or two too late, pal. I can't take responsibility for that. That's not my fault. I'm so supportive of this whole mental health push. I really am. And I'm so psyched that all of the teams are participating in it and it's reached sort of a global scale because it's definitely something that affects people, right? It's real. It can really put you in pretty dark places at times. And as you know, Fodes, one of the most important things when you're going through those tough times is to make sure that you have a good support network. And the unfortunate thing is not everyone does all the time. And professional sport is pretty ruthless at times. Like you said, one moment you're in the limelight and the next moment you're back to being the average person. And, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that can be tough, right? You build a community. You're part of a family in your club, in your team. And then next thing you know, you're on the outside looking in. And so it's so important, like you said, you mentioned talking to Joey, who's not a rugby person. It's so important to have a well-rounded community and network of people that you can turn to. And your rugby family is one. And then I, for one, am very lucky that I have people outside of rugby that are very supportive and are very much a part of my life. So that when rugby did start to move into the background as a player, lots of other pieces of my life were always there as sort of the cornerstones of my support network and the people I love and the people I care about. So it's really important. I'm so happy that everyone in MLR is pushing that awareness. And like you said, it's definitely a struggle. It hits home.
And getting in there, in there early, Mikey, as well, because the new day and age that we live in, with Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and all that sort of very readily available to our fans. And if no one is trying harder than the 15 guys who are on the field, and when they mess up, they know it more than anyone. They're more embarrassed. They know they've got to watch the reruns. They know they've got to sit in meetings. They've got to watch that clip again and again. So some, Tom, Dick, and Harry who's sitting on the internet being a keyboard warrior going, oh, you're shit because you did this. He already knows, mate. He doesn't need, Johnny Quango doing that from 1,000 miles away, sitting in wherever. Do you know what I mean? And so, it's good that we're getting on top of all of this now and getting kids, because we've got young players in this league who are coming through. Hopefully, going to have a long career, 10 years. Get them used to it. Get them to know what's happening in the real world. And we're on top of it. And it's great
But
to
it-
see them off.
But it comes with the territory, as you know, right? It's there's a lot of really great stuff about being a professional athlete. There's a lot of perks. There's a lot of lifestyle, community, living out your dream, all of that. I mean, it's a dream come true in so many ways. But like you said, it's not just the Rose Garden all the time, and it comes with the territory that when you put yourself out there, you're guaranteed to be criticized, and so it's difficult. Let's just say that. But you know what? It is what it is, and like you said, we're there to support one another. We're there to raise awareness about it, and I'm really proud of the players for putting that out there on a more visible level.
And talking of criticism, Mikey, I'm going to put you through it again because you probably are coming under a bit of criticism after the last week's projection. So we've got this week's to look forward to. Start you off with an easy one because you call them every week. It's going to be LA versus Austin, 1 and 2 in the West Conference, owned by the same owner. It's going to be a big game, that one. And they're down in Austin as well. So it means that, how long's that travel? How long's that trip from LA to Austin?
I would say that's probably a good 4 hours.
Okay, so it's not too bad. It's not like, it's not like the Seattle 8-hour trip, but it'll be interesting to see how they cope, see what they do, because they just played at SoFi Stadium, got things back on track. They've got a few players come back from injury who are looking good. Austin will be happy as well because they got the win that they were looking for and they ground it out. I was really impressed because when we were doing our obviously video and sort of looking at Austin before the weekend's game, I was surprised to see that they have the best defense in the league and they have a very good, stingy. I think they only concede something like 1.8 tries a game. So it could be something again. We said it with New York. They just didn't let LA get into that sort of open game, free-for-all rugby that they like, where they get to score, their big guns get to make breaks and offloads and throw the ball around. It could be another game like that, Austin. And you saw it the weekend with Rooney. They knew how to ground out a win. They scored 1 try, but they kicked the points. Matt Mason's impressive at 10. They sort of controlled the boys. They've got big old forwards, Paddy Ryan and that other unit in the front row. They could spring a surprise, Mikey. I know you like to back LA, but I could see Austin doing it.
Yeah. Look, I think you guys cracked the recipe when you beat LA, and you showed that to hang with that team, you can't play their game. You can't play fast. You can't play this exciting brand of rugby. You got to slow the game right down. Just take it slow, play the territory game, kick for points, keep the scoreboard ticking over, just frustrate them at the breakdown, get your defensive line organized, come off the line hard, just give them nothing to work with. And if you slow the game down for them, it could be a long day for LA. If Austin, I should say, if Austin slows the game down for them, it could be a long day for them. But
I knew there was a butt coming, Mikey. I
think LA learned their lesson from traveling across to you all. I think you'll still see, like you said, a couple of players just coming back in healthy this past week against Utah. I think they'll travel. They'll put them all on the plane, fly them down to Austin because it's a big one for them. And I do think that although it won't be as easy as it has been for them, I think that Los Angeles will persevere. I do.
If I'm being honest, Mike, so do I. I think with Mike Gitto back, I think Billy Meeks at 12 as well. I just think they're, with their stars back in the mix, I think gives them that extra edge that they need. Interesting though, I do think it'd be a good game.
I agree.
And it'll be a game that Austin are very much up for as well, because they're sort of in the shadow of LA. And they'll be like, you know what, this is our turn now. And so it'll be a good match. Maybe the match to watch of the weekend. Next game, Utah versus NOLA at NOLA. Do you know what, Mikey? I'm back on well, listen, I'm always going to be a bit of favoritism because I'm in the East Conference, but I'm on the Utah bus again. I like them. I think they're a team that have made the most development over the last 12 months. I think they're the team that come on leaps and bounds. I like what they're doing. They've got players who can do a bit of magic. Chip and chase is over the top. I'm a fan of it. They've got good link-ups, and I can just see them going there and doing a job for some reason. I don't know, because NOLA didn't look the best at the weekend. They got taken apart by San Diego. They'll be hurting. They'll be back at home, which, the old gold mine is a tough place to go and crack. But I think Utah is sort of playing with confidence. And although NOLA kind of like that open game and stuff, I think that Utah are sort of hoping they want to play like that, and it'll play to their strengths.
You can pick me up at the next stop, Fodes, on the Utah bus, because I'm gonna jump on board at the next bus myself, at the next stop myself, because look, I am so psyched up. Like I said, two of my friends and teammates are running the show there. A former role model of mine is sort of the person in charge with Kimmel Carr up there, Kimmel Carr, like running the organization in Utah, doing a fantastic job. Sean Pittman and Sean Davies running the coaching show. Two young coaches, both played for the U.S. I am psyched, like big time, for Utah, and I hope that they can really make this climb long term in the league this season. I do think that NOLA is a tough place to play, but like I said, pick me up at the next.
We're on. You're on board.
Put me on, folks. Put me on.
Another game as well. Houston, DC are traveling to Houston to play over there. DC winning at the weekend. Again, if they win this weekend, which I think they probably will. Houston's an interesting one because they have the ability, and we said that every now and then, but they do have the ability to turn off as well. I think it's going to come down to who wants it more, and just how DC's team have come through the weekend's antics. And they look pretty good. They look pretty healthy. They didn't seem to pick up too many injuries. And I think if DC win that, they're going to throw their hat right back into it, right back into the East Conference, because I can see, Free Jacks are playing New York. So one team's going to lose 4 points. Another team's going to gain 4 points. Utah at NOLA. We've both just gone with NOLA. So we're back in not NOLA. We've gone with Utah. So we're back in NOLA not to win. So if DC can go down to Houston and do a job, they'll be back right into like second spot. It's that close in the Eastern Conference. And I think DC will. I think they will. I think they've got more to play for. I think Houston are a good team. But I think that DC are going to be gritty, and I think they know that they need to win this game. It's going to be a pivotal point in this season, this 9 game marker into the season. And I think it'll be a tough game, but I can see DC coming through with the win.
This is another toss-up for me, and just to make this interesting, Fodes, because I genuinely I think this will be a good game. But just to make it interesting, I'm going to take Houston. I like the way Nick Boyer is playing at 9 in Houston. I'm just going to take Houston just to go against you, folks. So this way we can have some separation on our tallies this weekend.
Yeah. Mike, we really should write these things down and have like a competition where we have points, because I have I could have got like 2 right at the heart. I don't know how many we've got right and got wrong. I know we got a bloody lot wrong anyway.
I think I probably, if we're talking baseball batting averages, I'm probably doing all right. Like I'm probably at like maybe just around 300, like, which any other context is terrible, but in baseball, it's fantastic.
Baseball, it's good.
Baseball is fantastic.
Right, we'll have to make a note. Maybe in the next week, start making notes and who wins. Have a little competition between ourselves. Atlanta versus Seattle. Seattle. It's at Seattle. I think Atlanta are just riding too hot. Just think they're too hot. Seattle have got better. I think they've become a better rugby team as time's gone on. They've brought in new coaches. A few things are changing. They did lose at the weekend, but they're getting better. It was a close fought game. But I just see Atlanta as a team that are getting better and better week in, week out. And like I said, I think their squad's looking good. Players who have stepped up, either coming off the bench or given the opportunity, have shined. And I can see Atlanta, really cementing themselves at the top of that table this week.
I agree. I think Atlanta will come out on top of that one. But, I mean, Seattle's got to, I think they have to do something. And certainly in order for us to pick them, I think they have to do something. And for anyone to sort of give them a fighting chance as far as picking them to win games going into it, they have to show that they're capable of it. And they've been close. They were up on you all, and then they just let it slip away. But a few changes, like you said, that may influence that, but hopefully this is the start of something for Seattle. Hopefully they get a good win at home, but I'm going Atlanta.
I have to agree with you. I think Atlanta are looking good. Seattle, it's hard on Seattle because you can't really. At the beginning of the season, we were like, what has happened to the Seattle of old? Do you know what I mean? And it was worrying. Whereas now they're starting to piece things back together. And they're losing games, but they're only losing them by one score. They've got good players. Ross Neal on the wings been looking good. They're a team that have got good players throughout. We had Andrew Duratalo on this show, and he was looking good. And they do have good players, and they are capable of turning it on. But like you said, until they show it, and not just once, they've got to show it week in, week out, and run 2 or 3 games. Because that's what I think we're going to see with San Diego. Unluckily, San Diego aren't playing this week, so they've got a bye week. So they're going to rest up, so they can't use that confidence of coming off a really good win. But it buys them more time to get guys fit, get back on the field. If they've got new recruits coming in, then they're going to strengthen their squad. And you just sense that San Diego have turned the corner, where Seattle is they've still got to take a few steps to turn that corner.
But look, like you said, and I don't know if you've ever been affected by this, but when you're a part of a team that's down, it's really hard to turn that corner. No matter how smooth things look at practice, no matter how things are clicking, you've got to get that first win. And Seattle is they're looking for it right now. They're close, but they're not getting it. And they've got to get 1, 2, maybe 3 wins. And then maybe they'll start to, even from their own self, start to have more self-belief and self-confidence. But right now, think about it from your perspective as a player, that's a tough clubhouse to be in, right? That's a tough locker room to be in. It's not an awesome place to be right now, I'm sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure we've just turned around Seattle's season having that conversation, because we've done it a few times with a few people. But yeah, players to look forward to. There's only 5 games this weekend. I think it's going to be a real crunch week for the Eastern Conference as well. If Atlanta going to Seattle, if they do a job and get the 5 points, that's going to put a bit of breathing room for them. There's Free Jacks versus New York is a tough game for both sides. So it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out. DC to Houston, we said DC are looking good, but if they don't win there, obviously it puts them at the bottom still. There's plenty to play for. Loads going on in the Eastern Conference. West Coast, if Austin do a good job and win against LA, that'll be 2 in 3 weeks they've lost, and it breaks it back wide open. San Diego back on the charge. We could see a lot of happening in the next couple of weeks, Mike. I'm excited to see what happens. Hopefully we'll see me back on the field as well. Maybe I'm the missing link. That's what I've been saying. That's what I'll be texting the coaches saying, get me back in. Start scoring some tries from New York. But as always, Mikey, great chatting to you. Always awesome to hear your insight and listen to your terrible predictions, so I can go and put some bets on whoever you don't say. As always, I will see you next week, Mikey, when I see you in the clubhouse.